You're tuned to Planet Vero Radio. I am Cindy Schwartz, and this is Patient Partners. I have on the Skype with me my co-host, Jeannie Roller. She is in Indiana. Jeannie, today we're talking about drugs. We're talking about surgery drugs, and three in specific: fentanyl, Versed or Midazolam, and then Propofol. And we're talking about what they actually do to patients, side effects, maybe ongoing effects, and why they're used, and how strong these drugs really are. And does everyone really know what the side effects are or the end effects are? Because they're pretty potent drugs. Well, I guess let's start with fentanyl. I have a story that I printed out from theconversation.com, and it's titled "Fentanyl Widely Used, Deadly When Abused." It's from June 16th, 2016, and it's written by a Dr. David A. Edwards, who's an anesthesiologist at Vanderbilt University. He's also a professor there. And he talks about before fentanyl existed, there were morphine and other similar relatively weak opioids. So fentanyl is a synthetic opioid. So it can be made any strength that you want it to be made. And right. These weak opioids were insufficient for the type of major surgery that happens today. And that's kind of what he's talking about in this paper, about how it enabled these complicated surgeries in the last years since the 1960s, when fentanyl was developed by a Dr. Paul Janssen in Belgium during the 1960s to meet precisely the need of what morphine and the other weaker opioids didn't do. And so, wow, they've made some drug in fentanyl, and we hear a lot about it now that it's going to be the next epidemic, and it's starting to be, and 1,000 times worse than the OxyContin epidemic has been in this country.
Well, it actually already is an epidemic because it's coming in through our southern border. So yeah, it is an epidemic, and that's what most of the deaths are due to now, is street or fentanyl, because you have no idea what they've cut it with.
Or how strong it is.
Right, yeah.
Or how strong it is. And so it is a narcotic, and it is also an analgesic, which is a painkiller and all of that. I mean, it's got a couple of really walloping things going for it. But they need it for to put breathing tubes and stuff in for the surgery. So it has a purpose. And Dr. Edwards is saying in this paper that, in the right hands of an anesthesiologist who's licensed to prescribe and dispense fentanyl in the operating room, the drug is safe. So this is quoted by him. Even given its potency, but unmonitored, it can easily lead to death, and it essentially causes a person to stop breathing. So what we talk about, those that have had surgeries and, a horror and abusive surgeries, is that a lot of these drugs seem to us to have been mishandled and given willy-nilly to kind of lock you into staying in this surgery when you maybe have questions, or maybe you have anxiety that you want to leave and you can't.
Right. Well, one of the things that fentanyl does is it doesn't actually paralyze you, but it makes you feel like you are paralyzed. It makes your arms and legs feel like lead, like that you cannot move them, which to me is the same as paralyzing. So that is one reason why once you've been given fentanyl, even if you want to leave, you can't.
Yeah.
You physically cannot move.
So a lot of these things that we've talked on other 10-minute segments, in the informed consent section, you don't know anything about this. You really don't have any clue about it. And so how do you have a clue about the side effects that you're going to get from this? And a lot of the side effects from doing, some research on this are called psychiatric side effects that people are getting from this. It's not just physical stuff, it's psychiatric side effects that don't seem to go away. And we're also talking about Versed, which is it's midazolam. Versed is a benzodiazepine, and it's used for surgery. It causes drowsiness, dreariness, decreases memory of the surgery, and it decreases anxiety, and it decreases memory of the procedure. So it's really kind of, I don't want to say a date rape drug, but that kind of deal too. And you're getting both of these a lot of times at the same time.
Yeah. Well, talking about fentanyl strength, it is 100 times stronger than morphine.
It is. And they can make it stronger than that, too, as far as I know, because it's a lab-created drug.
Right. Yeah, they can. Usually it comes in doses of 50 mcg or 100 mcg. That's how they dose it.
And then they give that to you with Versed and Midazolam. And I understand that, if you're going to have like certain types of surgeries, that these are good drugs to have, in your drug cart to use. But I guess the thing that a lot of us ask ourselves, since we have been through heinous care and surgery, and I really don't want to use the word care, but why weren't we given choices when anesthesiologists have different tools in their toolbox where a person can have twilight sleep, a different kind of drug? They can be awake and then just have that section of their body numbed. They can use different, blocks, the same kind of things that they use for childbirth, where they can block out different nerves. But you just aren't given those options, and a lot of times you don't even know to ask. I mean, you have to do a ton of research, honestly. You have to be your own research advocate to know some of these things, because we are relying on the medical community to tell us. And a lot of times we've found with the people that we talk with another partner that we have is Misty Roberts, who gets emails continually from people that have been harmed and maimed in surgeries through Medical Patient Modesty on Facebook and also patientmodesty.org. And you just hear these horrific stories, and then people like, if I would have known, I would have went to another place. I would have went to another doctor. This doctor promised me so-and-so, and we've interviewed people on this show, too, that have said that. And then you get in the OR, you start getting all drugged up, you strip naked, there's the IV, blah, 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 and anything goes.
Well, and usually when the anesthesiologist comes in, they'll say, we're just going to give you a little something to help you relax. And that little something that helps you relax is usually the dose of Versed and fentanyl. Mm-hmm. It's more than just a little something. Versed and fentanyl is also used for their most popular surgery, or I'm not even sure if it's surgery, but invasive procedure, cardiac catheterization. That's what here in the United States is used over 95% of the time, whereas in Europe, they use that less than 75% of the time, any type of sedation. So why the difference between what they need to use in Europe and what they always use here in the U.S.?
Well, I think that's what our questions are. Those that have decided to chime up and start, following this trail and say, hey, this wasn't a good experience. Why couldn't it have been done a different way? And I didn't sign on for this when I supposedly signed an informed consent.
Right. And, when people are told conscious sedation, which again is Versed fentanyl, they think, oh, so I'm going to be awake. Mm-hmm. No, you're not.
Yeah.
Not really. That is so very misleading. You will be awake during the time you will experience whatever is going on to you. So if you're being sexually assaulted, you will experience that. Most likely, you won't remember it, but deep down in your subconscious, there will be something that always is nagging at your brain saying something bad happened. You just can't remember what the bad was.
Yeah. And so we have like a minute left, so we can quickly say Propofol too. I think a lot of people are educated to the fact that that's what Michael Jackson died of. I know Prince had an overdose of fentanyl, so there's another tragic instance there where the drug it's a shame that it was misused and whatever. And Propofol causes a loss of consciousness for general surgery, and lower doses that is used for conscious sedation, so for outpatient and whatever. It's not a painkiller, so it's just crazy, the weaponry of these drugs, and we really don't have a say-so. We don't have a lot of education on it, so we need to do more of that. I mean, that's what my opinion is. I wish I knew more, but sometimes that points you into doing things like this. So, Jeannie, quick give your Twitter handle, and then I'll give Misty's information again.
My Twitter handle is @rights4patients, and that is the number 4.
Okay. And Misty Roberts is at Medical Patient Modesty on Facebook and also at patientmodesty.org. And you've been listening to Planet Vero Radio. Please stay tuned.